Your dog is lying across the kitchen threshold right now. It moved there the second you started cooking. Nothing scared it into that spot. Nothing called it over. It simply watched you walk in, followed a few paces behind, and settled where the tile meets the carpet, close enough to see you, close enough to move the instant you do. Most people explain this one of two ways. The dog is needy or the dog adores you. Both of those answers carry something true, but neither of them describes what's actually going on. Because behavioral scientists have been quietly picking this apart for nearly 20 years now, and the conclusion they've arrived at doesn't match either folk explanation. Once you know what they found, that dog at the edge of the room looks like a completely different animal. In the behavioral research, dogs that trail their people from room to room have earned a label, Velcro dogs. And it's tempting to read that name as a verdict, as though something in the dog's early life didn't quite click into place, and this attachment is the leftover. In 2013, researchers at the Clever Dog Lab in Vienna put this assumption to the test. They ran a study using a food puzzle that dogs couldn't solve on their own, and they manipulated exactly one variable, whether the owner was sitting in the room or not. With the owner present, the dogs worked the puzzle longer. They stayed curious, kept poking at it, stayed committed to a task that wasn't rewarding them in the moment. When the owner stepped out, the engagement dropped off almost immediately. Then the team added a third condition. They brought in a stranger to sit in the room instead, just to check whether any human being in the space would produce the same result. It didn't. A stranger did nothing at all. The effect was tied entirely specifically to the owner. Now, here's what that tells us, and this is the reframe. Your dog isn't following you because it can't function without you. It's following you because when you're nearby, it actually functions better. Scientists have a term for this. They call it the secure base effect. Your dog uses your presence the same way a small child uses a parent at the edge of a playground. Not as a safety net to cling to, but as a fixed reference point that makes everything around it feel workable. The dog parked at the kitchen threshold isn't stationed there out of worry. It's stationed there because with you in sight, it's ready for whatever unfolds next. And here's a detail from that same Vienna data worth holding onto. Dogs who showed no separation anxiety whatsoever, zero, still pulled back from the puzzle the moment the owner left the room. The secure base effect wasn't something unique to clingy animals. It showed up in almost every dog they tested. That flips the whole picture. What reads as dependence from the outside is actually the opposite underneath. The dog performs at its best when you're accessible. Your presence isn't patching something broken in the dog. It's lifting the dog's ceiling. And there's a second thing operating underneath the following, a mechanism that's hard to unsee once you notice it. When dogs come across something they don't recognize, an unfamiliar noise, an object that wasn't there yesterday, a visitor at the gate, a reflex kicks in almost automatically. They look back at you. Researchers at the University of Milan ran a study on exactly this. They set up a fan dressed with green ribbons fluttering in the air, the kind of strange, novel object most dogs don't know how to categorize, and they watched what 75 dogs did when they encountered it. 83% of them, after glancing at the fan, immediately turned to check the owner's face. And here's the part that matters. They calibrated their next move based entirely on what they read there. A reassuring expression, the dog stepped forward. A worried one, the dog pulled away. Animal cognition researchers call this referential looking. The dog is consulting you as a live data source about a world it's still trying to interpret. A follow-up study from the same group confirmed dogs don't just glance at the owner, they genuinely recalibrate based on the emotional signal they pick up. Now think about what referential looking actually demands, physically. To check in with you, the dog has to be able to see you, which means every bit of the room-to-room trailing, every quiet presence at every doorway, part of what's running in the background is something simpler than attachment. It's positioning. Your dog is maintaining unbroken visual access to its most trusted information source. Every time it stands up because you changed rooms, that isn't neediness in motion. It's keeping the line of consultation open for whenever something new walks into the frame. The following is about staying reachable, not about dependence. In households with more than one person, there's almost always one human the dog tracks more closely than the others. The one who works from home. The one whose hand the lead tends to live in. The one whose movements most reliably lead to something interesting happening. Studies on how dogs monitor human behavior suggest this isn't emotional favoritism. Dogs orient toward whoever generates the highest rate of events that actually matter to them. Who heads for the pantry? Who picks up the keys? Whose footsteps usually precede something worth paying attention to? When you cross from the lounge to the kitchen, your dog isn't just following your body, it's reading the probability that something relevant is about to unfold. In unfamiliar environments, that tracking becomes even more visible. A 2024 study out of the Clever Dog Lab found that dogs will copy their caregiver's extra onto pointless steps through a route, even when they already know a shorter path exists. Mackey and Huber found this pattern held even in dogs that had prior experience with the task. But why would a dog choose the longer route over the one it already knows? Because when the environment is unfamiliar and the rules aren't clear, the smart play is to stick close and mirror the one who seems to know. What looks like blind imitation in that moment is something closer to careful uncertainty management. It's a navigation strategy, not a sign of submission. And none of it, is accidental. In 2017, a research team at Princeton identified structural variants in two genes commonly found in domestic dogs, GTF2I and GTF2IRD1. What makes these genes remarkable isn't just their presence in dogs, it's where else in biology they turn up. In humans, the deletion of these same two genes produces a condition called Williams-Buren syndrome. It's defined by extraordinary sociability, an almost compulsive drive to approach and bond with other people, and a near total absence of the cautious distance most animals instinctively keep from strangers. In medical terms, it's a genetic blueprint for human connection, literally coded into the DNA. Wolves don't carry these variants, dogs do, which means the drive behind what we label Velcro behavior, the tracking, the shadowing, the refusal to let you disappear around a corner unaccompanied, isn't really about upbringing or the first few weeks of a puppy's life, though those matter too. At a measurable genetic level, it's simply part of what a dog is. Thousands of years of selection pressure. I aimed not at hunting skill or obedience, but at one specific trait: the drive to stay close to humans and to find that closeness genuinely rewarding. Your dog is following you because something was built into its genetic code specifically to make sure it would. Most Velcro dogs are perfectly fine. But there is one distinction worth understanding, because it changes what the following actually means. In 2006, a team at Tufts University discovered something that caught veterinary behaviorists off guard. Dogs formerly diagnosed with separation anxiety did not, in fact, spend more time near their owners at home than dogs without the diagnosis. Following everywhere and separation anxiety are not the same thing. They can overlap in some cases, but following on its own is not evidence of a clinical problem. The line between them is actually clearer than most people realize once you know what to look for. A Velcro dog can relax when you're home. It can be in another room, settle in after a moment, and genuinely be okay. It chooses to follow when following is an option, but it doesn't unravel when that option is briefly taken away. A dog with a clinical issue can't switch off. The urgency doesn't fade once it reaches you. The anxiety surfaces even during separations measured in seconds, and instead of easing, it escalates. Two different phenomena running in two different nervous systems with two different root causes and two different paths forward. So, which of these describes the dog at your feet right now? Following is a feature of the bond. Clinical anxiety is something that needs professional attention. If your dog trails your every step but settles peacefully when you step outside, you don't have a dog with a problem on your hands. You have a dog doing exactly what its biology designed it to do. So the next time your dog is lying across that kitchen threshold watching you stir a pot, here's what's actually unfolding. It has positioned itself at the point of maximum sensory access to you. It's reading your movements for signals about what's coming next. It has spent weeks, months, maybe years quietly building a working model of you as the single most reliable source of meaningful events in its environment. And that pull it feels to stay within sight of you? That isn't a flaw in its temperament or a scar from early life. At the genetic level, it's the very same biological wiring that makes certain humans constitutionally unable to keep their distance from the people they love. Your dog isn't following you because something went wrong somewhere along the way. It's following you because in its entire world, you are the most interesting, most useful, and most trusted presence it has ever encountered. That isn't clinginess. That's the highest compliment the science of animal cognition knows how to pay. If this changed how you see that quiet shadow at your heels, subscribe and drop a comment below. Does your dog follow one person in your house more than everyone else? And if you've been watching this series from the start, the bond behind all of this was forged thousands of years ago when the first wild ancestors of your dog pressed close to a human fire for warmth. That was our very first video. If you haven't seen it yet, that's where the whole story begins.